Welcome back. In this particular unit, 3.10, specific to chapter 10, we're going to talk about some additional features of Excel as database managers. Basically, we can do a lot of functions with Excel to manage the data, to manipulate the data, to aggregate the data, and that's what we'll talk about in this particular unit. So these are the things that we'll talk about. First, we'll talk about introduction in the next slide, where we will list the things that we will discuss in general, and also where you can download the data file from. And then we'll talk about such data management and manipulation functions of Excel, including sorting, filtering, and finally grouping and summarizing. For these two, though, we'll use the same data set we had used before in 3.9, namely the crimes data file. For this one, though, we'll use, and including this one, you'll be using a data file from chapter 10 called um, the drugs data file. Okay, so Uh, this unit of 3.10 is basically about how to use Excel as a data manager, meaning how what managing things you can do. Like there are several other more powerful data management, database management tools like Microsoft Access and MySQL and whatnot. But Excel does most of these functions. Um, and we'll touch upon some of those functions in this particular video um, lecture. So for first few things, we will actually use the same city crimes data file, and this is where you can download it from. And then we'll talk about each of the things in the following slides and videos. Thank you. Okay, in the following slide, where we have a video, I want you to learn about sorting, and we'll be using the crimes data file for that. Okay, so in this short video, we're gonna do some sorting. And for this one, I'm using the same data file that we used and created in Unit 3.9, the crimes data file. So that's why you see this color coding and everything. Okay, so what is sorting? Well, you can rearrange the ordering of these rows um, by any column in ascending, descending order, increase or decrease in number. You can do whatever you want in terms of sorting these cases. The only thing you need to be careful though is that you select only the data that you want to sort. So this way and never select um, the summary data of this kind, only the raw data. Okay, so let's try to answer some questions like which city has the highest increase in property crimes, or which city had the lowest violent crimes in 2012. So you can answer many questions by ordering them and looking at the highest or the lowest values. So let's start with trying to see violent cases per 100,000 in 2012, right? Um, let's make a total number of cases in 2012 and see which state has or which city has the highest. So let's sort by that. For that, you need to select the entire only data set, not the summary sets like these ones. So once you have selected, now what you're doing is sorting. For sorting, you need to use the data tab right here, right? And you see this big sort button. You need to click on that. Once you click on it, then you will see different options. Again, I played with this. That's why you see this. Let me delete that. Okay. How do you do that? Well, you have to select the column that you want to sort by. So let's say 2012 crime. Let's sort these cases or sort these observations by 2012 crimes. So keep in mind, you need to select this. If it's not selected, it will consider the first row as also a data point, but it's a header for us, and we are actually sorting it by the header so that you'll sort by the column and you select the name of the header you want. So if you want the total, um, say, where is it? Total crimes in 2012. And you want to look at the largest one. So you can be smallest to largest, largest to smallest, whatever question you're interested in. I want to know um, which city has the largest or the highest number of crimes. Once you click on that, now the data gets sorted, right? And seems like New York City has the highest crime in 2012, and the least being for El Paso. You see that? So let's do sorting of the opposite kind. So we click on that and go from smallest to largest, right? So it changed. Now El Paso comes at the top and New York City go to the bottom. Now you can sort it by any column of interest. Let's say, let's look at violent crimes per 100,000 individuals in 2012. So 2012 violent crime cases per 100,000 individuals. So let's see which city has the highest violent crimes per 100,000 individuals in the population. And we already discussed how to create this, so I'm not going to talk about that. So we're interested in this, but you need to select all these cells except the summary cells, right? And then keep in mind we're interested in violent crime per 100K for 2012. So click on sort and now select, again you have to double check this is clicked. Then click on, where is it? Violent crime per 100,000. 2012 violent crime per 100,000. You see that? Let's change it to, and make sure it's sorted on the values. If there are no values, like if you want to sort by state, then it needs to be text. Okay, largest to smallest. Click OK. Now the data gets sorted, and um, you can see that this particular state, what is it? Detroit. You see that? Detroit has the highest violent crimes per 100,000 individuals, and the lowest being here, San Jose. You see that? Let's see if we can answer other questions. Let's talk about which city had the highest total crime rate in 2012. We actually did that, right? Um, we'll do it again. Highest um, total crime per 100K. Oh, this is total crime per 100K. Let's do this one. Okay. Again, it's pretty simple. Sort, select total crime per 100K. Let's do smallest to largest and see which city is the smallest. Um, it's sorted by this. So New York City is smallest in terms of total number of crimes per 100,000, whereas Memphis has the highest number of cases, violent cases per 100,000. So you can answer such questions by working with this one. Now, here's another thing. You can also sort on multiple criteria. For instance, you can sort by state and city. I'll show you how to do that. Again, you have to select the data file. Oops. And click on the sort button and make sure this is selected. So the first thing you want to select is by the state, right? It doesn't matter even if it's values. Sort on values. I don't know. Ooh, let's not forget about that. Okay, then go from. Oh, it automatically selected the text. My bad. Okay, it goes from alphabetical order A to Z. So the starting with A would be the first state. Then within that, if there are multiple cities, right, we can sort that by city. So you're just adding another layer to it. So state by city, then click OK. Then you'll see that Arizona has one city, California has several cities, and within that, these are arranged in the alphabetical order. So, these are some fun things you can do with the sorting function. I hope you liked it. Okay, so in the next slide, you'll see a video demonstration of doing filtering with the same crimes data file, city crimes. Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about how to do filtering. And this is an important function and very fun uh, um, to learn function. So for this, we are using the same, the data set that we used in 3.9, not the crimes one, but the later one for more summarizing. We used the White House staff file. So that's what I'm using here. Once you open the file, now the question is, how do you filter it? Now it's pretty simple. You just need to click somewhere in the data file in under one of these columns and just go to the data tab, right? And click on, do you see this big funnel button? So just click on that. Then you'll see each column has this drop down menu, right? That means that this file is the columns are, you can filter the columns now. So what do you mean by filter the columns? Well, we can filter the columns based on any criteria. For instance, let's look at the status. Column B has, A has the names and B has the status of employees. And very few of them are detailees, are temporary employees, not the permanent ones. So let's try to sort, let's try to filter out the employees and only look at these hidden detailee kind of status. So how do you do that? We need to click on that um, the downward arrow button, and then do you see that everything is selected in the sense that all the values in this particular column are listed. So you unselect it, then only select those values, detailees and employees, right? We're just selecting the detailees. Voila, you see that there are 22 observations, and I can say 28 observations. So I can say that by looking at in the Windows it will be on the right bottom, but in Mac it is at left bottom. So only 28 rows are being shown out of 460 data points. So there are 460 rows, but 20 are shown. So and you can go other way around where you can only look at the employees, right? But this is more interesting, I guess. So I'm gonna leave that in. Okay. Now here's the other thing, other important thing about how to know that not every row is selected here, right? The rows that has employee information or those rows with employee as a status, those are hidden. And these highlighted rows that usually don't see suggest that there is more data to it, and this is the filter data. Okay, and another thing to show that filtering is on is when you have these downward arrows, and this particular thing actually shows a funnel. You see that here, right? That means that this particular column is filtered, and there's more to data than this. Um, what else can we say? Uh, let's try to. We can also filter it based on multiple criterion, right? For instance, we can look at and filter out only those data sets um, that have a specific value. For instance, I want to know only those people, the detailees who earn $100,000 or more. Okay, there are 28 observations. Let's only look at the people who earn $100,000 or more. Okay, so what I do now is go to the salary, right? Then here is a filtering option. Do you see that? Within that, there are different options, right? I'm going to choose one option. Let's say greater than or equal to. And I put $100,000 here. We don't need dollars or comma. You just like 100,000. So 5 zeros. So then, voila, you see that now we have 22 observations. So in Windows, I think there's a OK option, but this is Mac, so I don't have any options. I'm just leave it. So 22 observations. So these 22 people actually earn 100,000 or more who are detailees. Again, one more other thing you can do is if you want to copy this one and paste it somewhere, it will paste everything, even the hidden ones. But if you just want to copy The unhidden one, only the ones that are you interested after filtering. Again, these two are filtered. You can see that. What you can do is click on this column and select the table you want to copy. Right click, copy, and let's create a new sheet and click on it. Right click and just paste. So it just copied those 22 observations with the column. You see that? So, and without this filtering, you cannot just copy that. And then whenever something is copied, you can see these active zones represented here. Let me see if there is anything else that we can do in terms of sorting. Well, I think that's it. That's about sorting. And there are many other things. These are like basic things I want you to know because when you work on the project, these are the things that will help you make some quick decisions. So thank you. Well, in the next slide, uh, we will be talking about grouping and summarizing and the data file that we'll use for this one. So, the grouping and summarizing is another kind of manipulation you can do to the data, especially it has to do with the functions of pivot tables. And we'll do that and answer questions like how much and how many for each category, like state. Then we'll be using this particular data file, the stride meth Excel data file from chapter 10 dataset, and you can download it from the link. So in the next slide, we'll actually see a video on grouping and summarizing on this database. Okay. So for this particular grouping and summarizing, um, we're going to use the data specific to the drugs and that were seized by different states or countries in the world. And this information, these drugs that were seized by different personnel were sent to DEA, and they tested that. So this is from year 2007, number of times as a function of the state or the country from where this particular seizure was done. Um, that's the first column. Second column is the method of acquisition. Third column is the actual drug that was seized. Then on a 1 to 100 point scale, the potency of the drug. Then the net weight of the drug that was seized for each time it was seized. Then the year in which it was seized and the month in which it was seized. So we'll run some three basic kinds of um, grouping and summarizing. Remember the pivot table thing? That's what we'll do. We'll run pivot tables or create pivot tables. First, we'll try to see how often have these states or countries reported or seized. And so that's the simple pivot table. First, we'll run that. Okay. So for that, you just need to click on the Insert tab and Pivot Table option. Then click OK. Then it will create a new um, tab. Let's call that state by um, count, like how many times does each state um, reported it or each country reported it. So for that, you have all the columns here, and you'll select the state in the and move it to the rows section. Then you select the state again to see how many times each state is has reported it, then put it in the values. And automatically it takes it to count, and that's what we want. And if you look at it here, um, Alaska with AK here has reported 19 times or seized 19 times drugs. And so there are 19 observations in 2017. That's what it refers to. Now we can sort this one. If you click on anywhere in this column, if you click on one of the cells and right click and go to sort option and select it from the largest to smallest, then it will rearrange and sort it, and it seems like California is the state with the most seized drugs, instances of most instances of drug being seized, 1,385 times. Well, you also have to take into account the size of the state. With more states, there could be more instances. So that should be taken into account when you make inferences. So this is specific things, and also you can do a lot with this. If there are decimal points you want to get rid of, you can select the column, right click. Remember we talked about formatting cells and changing it to numbers and changing the decimal points. You can do all that with this. Okay, so now we'll run a different pivot table. So we'll go back to the original sheet, right? Now we're going to run the state by potency, like which state has the highest potency seizure um, in terms of drug potency. So again, you go to insert, pivot table, and click OK. It'll open a new tab. I'm going to name it as state by potency. Okay. Now here you can see that it is state by potency. So I'm going to put state in the rows, and I want the values, potency in the values. So I'll know each state, what's the potency. Um, Here you need to understand that the potency here is the is 0 to 1, and what the Excel did is, because these are numbers, it actually summed it up. We don't want that. We want the average potency as a function of state. What it did is it just summed it up. So those states with highest seizures will have more potency, right? But because it's sum, not average, so we need to calculate the average for each state. So we're going to click on this I button here and change that from summary to average. Then click OK. Now you can see that it is calculated the average. But there are several decimal points here, right? This is confusing. So I'm going to change that by selecting on this particular column. I know this changes stuff, don't worry. We'll come back to that. And then right click, format cells, then select number and use, how about we don't need any decimal points, I guess, or just one decimal point. Okay, click OK. Now this is more meaningful. Now here is what you can do. By clicking anywhere on this column, you can right click and sort it by most potency, right? Largest first. So now you can see this particular state has the highest potency of 85, followed by TT. I think it refers to some other country, if I'm not wrong, Paris or something. That has the potency of 80, number 2, followed by Massachusetts, which has the highest potency of 75. This is the average um, potency in the sorted in terms of highest to lowest. So that's one thing. The last thing we're going to run now, we're going back to the original sheet is state by net weight. So for that, we need to go to insert and go to pivot table, click OK, and then move the stuffs around. Let me check if we have enough time. Okay, I think you have a few more minutes, so we can still use the same video. So now what you're doing is state by net weight. How much did each state seize in terms of the amount of the drug? So I'm gonna put the state here in the rows column and the net weight here in the values column, because we are interested in the total amount of drugs that being seized in a given state. The sum is perfect, and that's what we have. Then when we look at it, that's what it shows, right? Now what I'm going to do is there are some decimal points. I don't want these decimal points. In fact, I want some commas to make more sense of this. So I'm going to select this, and what do we do next? Right click. I've selected the column and right click, format cells. Then I change it to numbers, and I don't want any decimal points actually. And I'll use commas. Then click OK. Now you can see the first observation. Alaska as 3,105 pounds. So what I'll do now is sort it. Where is sort? Oh yeah, for sort you have to select individual cell. Then it sorts the entire column. Okay, so sort, sort, sort. There you go. Largest to smallest. Let's see which state sees the most. California makes sense, right? 974,000, 974,000 pounds of drug um, in 1 year. And it makes sense given the larger population, bigger population, larger area of California. The second most is this state, and third is Texas, and so on and so forth. Well, those are the three kinds of grouping and summarizing kind of stuff you can do with Excel. And that's it. I hope you liked it. Let me save this as um, state by weight. Okay, there you go. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the application practice exercise, which is optional. Okay, so the applicational practice optional exercise is specific to stride math data file that we used in the previous section when we talked about grouping and summarizing. So use this data file to answer these questions for specific to California state. In which month did the DEA receive the greatest number of meth seizures? Then in which month did the DEA get the most meth by weight? And all related to California. And in which month was the meth that California sent to the DEA was the most potent one? And then finally, filter your data and use pivot tables to answer the questions. Well, I hope you will do this optional exercise. Thank you.